Thank you, Shane. That was very inspiring. Quite some exciting developments over the time that you've worked on that. Yes, there's a lot to take away from there. I'm a member of the Western Adelaide Coastal Residents Association executive and editor of the WACRA Messenger. I've worked mainly in community development over my career, particularly at the local community areas. It's also included about 5 years managing TAFE programs on the APY lands, with a focus primarily on governance, and was part of a campaign to save the Henley Beach Library. And I'm currently writing a series of comics about my childhood for my spare time. I'd like to spend about 5 minutes just talking about the question of campaigns from a process perspective. There's going to be quite a lot of information about particular strategies and issues with regard to campaigns, I think. And it doesn't matter whether we're working on protecting the South Australian heritage or just trying to save one tree. Every campaign has 3 core components: the specifics of the particular problem, the policy decisions that are being made, the stakeholders, the government agencies involved. There is the question of the strategy for managing the campaign. And the third is the tools for keeping us on track and sustaining that campaign. And I'd like to briefly focus on 2 and 3 there, the strategies and tools. Now, we all know the adage, those who fail to plan to fail. And it follows that we increase our chances of success if we've got a documented strategy, which involves making choices about what we're going to do, as well as what we're not going to do, which is something that Shane raised in terms of thinking about where the organisation is going. The approach I try and take is, before tackling any challenge, I'd like to complete the statement that I will know that I've succeeded when, and then list the measurable outcomes that represent that success. The next step is having clear milestones, and breaking down that campaign down into the winnable stages can really help. I recently read a book by Stuart Truman called All the Way Around. Now, he paddled a kayak solo 17,000 kilometres around Australia in 16 months back in 2010. One stretch, the Zydorp Cliffs south of Denham, involved a 30-hour non-stop paddle because there was nowhere to land. So he had to sit 6 kilometres offshore. And there were 200 kilometres of 200-metre high cliffs, and that was before he got to the Great Australian Bight. So he could never think about that journey as a whole, but rather as a series of small, achievable chunks. In his case, they were 5 6-hour segments, each broken down into 1-hour milestones, when he might have a banana sandwich or a muesli bar at those times. In addition to those goals and tactics involved in any campaigns, we need to be really, really clear about who are our allies in this process and who are our enemies. How can they help us or hinder us, and how we can work with them. The message and content. I have to keep reminding ourselves that most of the time our audiences are not paying attention. They don't spend a lot of time thinking about politics. And so in terms of communication, that understanding has to be uppermost in our minds. Turning to the issue of tools for sustaining our campaigns, there are 3 key questions. They include: what will keep people working on our campaigns engaged? How can we make that process a bit of fun? And what are the tactics that won't wear us down? We all need nourishment, and to keep reminding ourselves that only together are we all strong. Some of the options, from my experience of keeping teams engaged, include regular checks on everyone's load and commitment, making sure that the load is shared, and that's a conscious thing that has to be happening regularly, not just assumed. Finding ways to reward people for what they're doing and having regular collegiate activities to keep up spirits. When new people come in, giving them a manageable job to do as soon as they start so that they can get a positive payoff. Pairing new people with a mentor and providing them with induction and shared tribal knowledge, e.g. the politics of the people, personalities inside and outside the group. This has been one of the biggest issues that I found, particularly when working on the APY lands, that was one of the barriers to people maintaining engagement and surviving the long haul. engaging people with specific skills to the problem who are not part of the organisation or committee to write, contribute or edit submissions of campaign documents. In probably almost all the successful campaigns that I've been involved in, there's always been 2 or 3 people from outside the core group who have been happy to come in for a consultancy and help with a particular project and then be able to go on with their lives. Engaging people at meetings and forums. It's very common and very natural for us to, when we have a general meeting or a public meeting or anything like that, to talk to the people that we are familiar with, the people within our circle. And it's really important to give committee members or members of the organisation the job of striking up conversations with new attendees and people who are not part of the inner circle, working on skill spotting and recruitment, particularly in the technology area. In many of the organisations that I've been involved in, there's been a big gap in having people with technological insights and skills. And even if we just bring them in on an ad hoc basis, just reminding us things are changing and that we need those tools. And finally, the issue of celebrating milestones. This is a really brief overview of this, what I think is a very big topic and more of a checklist, really. The important thing is to consciously engage with the issues and to revisit progress regularly. It's sort of like conducting an ongoing campaign health check. Thank you.